Hey, okay, so I think that I made this video a while ago, and before I posted it, I actually cleaned off my desktop and threw it out. So I'm redoing this video, which is good because I actually have some more insights to add to it that I wouldn't have had before. So I'm actually grateful for that sequence of events. So sometimes people will say to me, do you ever cheat on your diet? And I wanted to talk about that because that's so interesting to me that someone would ask that question in that way. And of course, I understand what they're saying, but to me, that question says more about them, or at least equally as much about them as any answer I would give. So I wanted to kind of deconstruct that, take it apart and look at the parts, and then actually answer the question that I know they're asking. So first of all, excuse me, cheat. What is cheating, right? Cheating in a relationship is going outside of the relationship, dishonestly not telling your partner, because that's something you have agreed upon that you are not going to do, right? So it's doing something outside of the bounds of your agreement sneakily. Okay, same thing can be applied, I suppose, to food. You have an agreement, primarily in this case, I guess it would be with yourself, that you are going to do certain behaviors, eat certain foods in this case, and you're actually going outside of that agreement with yourself, eating different foods, and I guess there's an attitude of, excuse me, sneakiness to it because it's called cheating, right? So what this reminds me of is there's a scene in Parenthood, that old movie, where Rick Moranis' wife is in the closet. She's like a fitness fanatic. She's in the closet with her secret box of, like, I don't know what, ding dongs and Twinkies and candy and stuff, and eating it on the floor of the closet. Sorry. So that to me is what is invoked when I think about cheating on a diet. So that's cheating. The second part of it is diet. This term diet is something I don't use when I'm talking about the food that I eat. I talk about the food that I eat as the food that I eat. This is the food that I choose to eat. Generally, I'm eating what my body tells me to eat. I don't know what's going on. And I don't eat foods that my body doesn't tell me to eat. In general, there are some exceptions during some times, which I will talk about in a second. But diet to me invokes this, something short-term, something to get a specific result, after which result you may or may not continue with your diet. It means something restrictive. It means something very regimented. So none of those have anything to do for me with what I choose to eat. I love what I choose to eat. What I choose to eat nourishes my body, nourishes my mind and my spirit and my soul and my connection to the earth, to the moment. It nourishes my highest vibration. It nourishes my awareness of the now. It nourishes my awareness of conscious experience of this life. It is a friend to me. My food is an absolute friend that I am grateful for. I thank my food for giving its life so that I am able to live on my highest vibration. I'm so aware of incorporating in the energy of my food that I'm intaking, the actual life of the plants. And while they're still living, I'm eating them, which is something you'll hear about a living foods diet. That is a raw foods diet. The foods in that diet, I'm using the word diet, I'm catching myself. The food, it's such a common term, right? Diet, to actually, it's almost on two levels. It's like just to describe what you're eating, like the diet you might give an animal, a non-human animal, or a diet that they might naturally choose to eat, like a giraffe's diet. And then it's also used almost in this like restrictive, pejorative sense of being like this very restrictive, yucky thing, you know, that you go through to lose weight or to fit into your, you know, I don't know, holiday dress or something, right? So it is both of those. So the way I'm using is just to describe what I eat, not in the other way. But like I said, I don't actually generally use that term at all, diet, because it is so linked with the second meaning of it, that restrictive, yucky meaning. So I've totally lost my train of where I was going before that. So let's see. Well, let me just take a second to connect. I think I was talking about what I choose to eat, and that it nourishes everything to me that is worthwhile nourishing in my body. And that's why I choose to eat it. But it's not really a mental choice. It really is a checking in with myself and then gravitating towards what my body is wanting. It's a very intuitive way of eating for me. And it's a matter of having those foods around so that I can kind of just go to them right when I need them. So it's been a real process for me over time of integrating those foods into what I have in my house so that I can just go to them, or foods that I'm carrying around, or foods I have access to. So that's why I choose what I choose to eat. I think that's a pretty good description. And then let me answer the question that I think people are actually just asking me when they're asking me that, which is, do I ever eat foods that are not raw vegan? And the answer is yes. Sometimes I do. And when I do that, it is not because that is my highest vibration calling me to do that. I can't picture anything that I've eaten that is not raw vegan. I've been raw vegan now for 11 years. And occasionally I will eat something cooked. Occasionally I will eat something that is not vegan. That would be limited to eggs. Every once in a while, I will not have access to something else that's a better quality, and I will have an egg. Pretty few and far between. Haven't wanted one actually in a really long time, but sometimes that does happen, and I don't know what my body is asking for. You know, we can make interpretations. Like I would sometimes interpret my body's needing more protein, perhaps, or maybe there's something in an egg that hasn't even been labeled or discovered yet that my body is saying I need, and that I don't have access to in another food kind of at the ready for me. So every once in a while we'll have an egg. The other situation is if I'm, and that is generally if I am out and about. I don't make eggs for myself at home because I have access to better quality live foods that don't inject any of the other things that I don't like about eating even an egg, which is, even if it's organic, free range. I haven't been to that farm. I don't know how those chickens are treated, and I don't want to contribute or be a part of any kind of slavery or oppression. And to me, chickens who are, kept in cages or in any way not able to roam free and be happy chickens and lead happy chicken lives, I don't really want to contribute to. So I do my best to not do that. So that's one reason that even eating something like an egg, which is not an animal per se, it is an animal product, it doesn't feel very good to me, but I have eaten them. And like I said, if I don't have access to whatever my body's telling me I need in a vegan raw form, such as I'm traveling or I'm out and about, then infrequently I have eaten eggs. So the other thing is me being kind of out and about at a restaurant or at a restaurant traveling. And usually I will carry things in my purse to eat so that I'm actually full before I go in if I'm going somewhere where I know they don't have raw vegan options for me. Or if I haven't done that, sometimes I will just be really starving and at a restaurant, for example, we will go sometimes to Joy Cafe here in, I think it's in Westlake Village, it might be in Thousand Oaks. I go there somewhat often and I will generally get a Caesar salad, which is all vegan, and I get it in a raw version. Or we'll go to a restaurant called Peddler's Fork, which also has an incredible vegan raw Caesar salad, and I will get those two items. But sometimes when I'm there, I am really starving for something denser than a salad, and the vegan Caesar, particularly at Peddler's Fork, is a pretty dense salad. Sometimes I will get it with a cashew cheese. Almost always I'll get it with a cashew cheese, actually, which is just adding density to it for me and probably protein. I'm not sure exactly what my body is calling for. Remember, our bodies are capable of creating life, or at least housing and developing life from a fetus to a baby inside our body. So we don't actually know what our body is calling for when it's calling for something. Like for me, that heavier density food probably is a protein call, but I'm not actually sure. Who knows? And I will generally have a skin reaction to cashews. I am very sensitive to cashews. A lot of people are because they are in the poison oak family. And when they actually process cashews, when they take them out of the shell, they actually have to wear like hazmat suits because there's under the shell, there's actually this layer that is quite toxic, and a lot of people react to that when they're eating cashews. So it kind of depends on the source of my cashews and what they've been through before they get to me, but generally they will give me an itchy skin rash. And that is absolutely not what my body is calling for. But if I'm out and about and feel like a heavier meal and my skin's pretty good in general, I will sometimes add that on. It also tastes really good. And then sometimes at Joy Cafe, I will they're called the jackfruit tacos, and you can get them on a lettuce leaf, which sometimes I will do, but the jackfruit is cooked. And sometimes I will just go ahead and get it on a tortilla because it's kind of fulfilling that need for heavier food, and I'm not home, so I don't have the ability to, make some nut meat or something that I would generally make just for myself. So sometimes I will get that. As a note, Joy Cafe happens to be gluten-free, vegan. There's something I'm forgetting. But with tortillas, generally corn tortillas are contaminated with gluten. They do have some wheat in them. So if you get them, make sure if you're gluten sensitive that, for instance, Joy Cafe's tortillas are gluten-free. So I know I'm not having to, I'm also very sensitive to gluten, so I don't have that, to deal with. I would not do that. I never eat anything that that I know has gluten in it, which is never a problem for me because you don't get gluten in raw vegan foods, period. So those are really the three exceptions that I have something that is not raw or vegan, and actually that's only two exceptions. The third is at Peddler's Fork, I also will get fresh avocado tacos. They have fried ones on the menu, and I just have them do fresh avocado, but that also is a corn tortilla. So I do my best if I'm going to eat something not raw and not vegan to have it be organic, gluten-free, and also like no added sugar or anything. It needs to be an actual food, like the jackfruit, for instance. I remember when I first went raw talking to a really good friend of mine who is a raw vegan chef. And actually, she is the first person I ran into that I started really learning about raw vegan food. And I was so lucky to have her in the town that I lived in Sacramento at the time. Her name is Brooke Preston. And she had a beautiful restaurant, raw vegan restaurant called the Green Boheme. And I believe now as she is kind of into some other things, but still definitely doing food. And she's a wonderful resource for me in general, and friend. But I remember talking to her and saying, do you ever eat anything that is not raw and not vegan? And this was kind of maybe a year in when I had first started. And she was like, oh yeah, if I'm out with friends, I'll just have a vegan meal. And I was like, oh, I remember just being like shocked, like shock and awe, like you eat something that's not. And she's like, oh yeah. And I'm like, don't you get food coma? Because that's what will happen to me too. Generally, I get not instantly, it'll take a couple of minutes. I'll get really tired. It used to be really bad. I just don't really eat those foods now. But I used to have to just really like lay my head down on the table. It's just like instant exhaustion. And I think it's kind of a factor of not being used to digesting that kind of thing and it hitting the stomach and just, having that extra heavy load. And my interpretation too, just energetically, it's heavy. Energetically, it doesn't feel good. Energetically, it's like getting on an elevator and going down 6 floors like in a second is what it feels like. And it takes a while for it to wear off. So I don't enjoy how I feel when I eat raw vegan foods. But I don't not eat them out of a sense of guilt or out of a sense of I have to stay on this regimented thing because I said I would, or I don't want anyone to see it, or you know what I mean? It's nothing to do with that. It really is that I love eating what I eat. And for all of the reasons I mentioned earlier, that it's so nourishing to my mind, my body, my soul, the planet, other animals. I'm just really excited to have found this way of eating and living. And it's an honor for me to be able to eat this way. And it's also very simple. So I'm just so grateful for it. So I hope that answers that question and kind of explicates it a little bit more, pulls it apart a little bit more to kind of see the skeleton underneath it of maybe the person that's asking you if you've been asked that question, or if you have asked that question, to look a little bit more deeply into how do you look at food. And to me, any way of looking at food other than something you joyfully consume to fuel your body and your life and to nourish yourself and to nourish the life that you want to have is a dysfunctional way of looking at it. So anyway, other than that, it's a dysfunctional way. So peace, love, and health.